Once upon a time, a distant memory. It's like synergy. Life the hardest teacher y'all could ever get the master. Get a test first, then y'all get that lesson after. Steve's never stressing them G's to freeze egos. Please, I just get them in threes, like the Migos.
What's going on, everybody? I'd like to welcome y'all back to the Diagnosed Success Podcast. I'm your host, K Sparks. We are blessed and highly favored. It's a blessing to be a blessing. Appreciate y'all tapping in each and every single week. It's all love. Y'all know the vibes, man. And as always, I'm going to get started with the word of the day. Something motivational, inspirational. Get you through your day, your week, your life. You heard? I love this word of the day. Live it, I preach it, I teach it. It's called, if they can't afford your value, it's not your job to give them a discount. I like that. If they can't afford your value, it's not your job to give them a discount. The word of the day is pretty much straightforward. That's real spill. A lot of times in life, you got to have standards. I think that that's important. Without standards, you have chaos. Without standards, you don't have boundaries. And if you don't have boundaries, then you don't have limits on people. And a lot of times without that, people will run amok. A lot of people, they have no discretion. They just have a user mentality. They got a usury spirit. They always want to take. They never want to level up and try to help you, but they always want to take from you. So this word of the day is powerful because if they can't afford your value, it's not your job to get them a discount. It's either we're going to level up together, or unfortunately, I got to leave you where you at. Sometimes you can meet people where they at and you leave them there if they don't want to grow, right? So keep that in mind. And that's the word of the day. All right. Before today, got a fire topic. I like this topic. A lot of people can relate to this. It's called parental entitlement. All right. Parental entitlement. And what we're going to talk about today is a lot of times people wonder because someone is their mother or their father, if they're obligated to do certain things. You know, the Bible teaches a lot of times, honor thy father and thy mother, and thy days will be long on this earth. But when you really break down that verbiage, it's not that simple, depending on what type of upbringing you had, right? So we're going to break it down. I think this is a great topic to talk about. And then I'll talk about my own personal experience too. But for starters, you know, and I made a couple points here. One thing that I will say is this. Just because someone lays down with another person, they have sex and they make a child, that does not make them parents, right? I think that's important for people to understand because sometimes people get it twisted and feel that just because people create a child that they're automatically a mother or you're a father. And that's totally incorrect. At the end of the day, yes, by label and title, you fathered that child, so you are that child's father. And if a woman gave birth, then yes, you are the mother. However, those are action words. Not every man is a father and not every woman is a mother. A father is someone who protects and provides. They take time with their children. They pour into their children. They teach them about their losses and how to get more wins. Mothers are nurturers. They pour into their children the same way. They are loving. And you got a lot of people that made children that just aren't mothers and they aren't fathers. So at the end of the day, if you had a mom who's a piece of shit, if you had a dad who's a piece of shit, just because they made you, does that mean you're obligated and they're entitled to you doing things for them? My personal opinion, absolutely not. And at the end of the day is you treat people based upon performance, right? It's like a job. If you go to work every day and you a bum and you lazy and you don't help your coworkers when it's time to do work, you that person that's always in the back hiding from responsibility. They like, yo, bro, get out of here. Like when it's time for a raise, you're done, right? Because you're not going to get anything because you're a bum. It's like, well, if we in the studio and you lazy, you're not helping create the tracks and all of that, but you want to get a writer's credit or a production credit, you're done, right? So it's the same thing with parents. Like you got to assess your mother, assess your father. Like, all right, God bless, thank you for creating me. But ultimately, at the end of the day, what is our relationship like? Like, were you a nurturer? Were you a provider? And even if you didn't have money like that, because everything's not about money, did you at least provide emotional support? Did you provide mental support? Were you present when I needed you to be present? These are like real questions that you got to use to assess. And that becomes the barometer for really, what is this person entitled to in your life? Because if they was a bum, they was a bum. Let's call a spade, right? There's some people that they have kids and they didn't even want kids, right? I've heard people verbalize that. Like, they don't verbalize it to their kids, obviously, but I've heard them say, hey, I never wanted kids and I have kids. That's pretty fucked up, right? Because it's like you didn't want to be a parent, but you just had selfish lust, and you just wanted to have sex and intimacy. Just so happened now y'all having a kid that you don't want, and it shows. And that's the worst part about it, right? It shows and it bleeds over into your relationship with your children. You're not emotionally present. You're not physically present. You're not financially present. That's fucked up, right? But at the end of the day, when your child grows up and when they become successful, they become established, and now you're old and you got a walker and you can't do shit for yourself, are they entitled and obligated to help you? If they got a good heart and they forgive you, so be it. But I mean, a lot of times what you reap is what you sow. Calm as a motherfucker, right? So that's something to be mindful of. Respect, right? That's another note I have. Respect is a two-way street. A lot of times, based upon, if you respect your children, show them respect. I think a lot of parents, a lot of times, look down on their children as if, yo, just do what I say and shut up. Children ought to be seen, not heard. All of that old doctrine, all of that old ideology that's old is played out, and it's no longer relevant because we are living in new times with new technology. Our children have the world at their fingertips. They got information. They got access to things that we couldn't have fathomed when we were younger. I remember when the internet first came around back in the days, and it was dial-up, and we had America Online, AOL. So I remember when me and my brother, we wanted to use the internet, and my mother picking up the phone and hearing that static, and she's like, get off that phone, boys. You know what I'm saying? Like, damn, mom's got to use the phone. You can't use the internet, right? That's how it was. Now, our kid, the technology is in the palm of your hands. That's how much things have advanced and changed. So, you know, our kids have access to things. And with that access, they need guidance. They need parents. They need people to look after them. And that goes a long way. You plant those seeds. I'm a firm believer that children do need structure. They do need guidance. And you can't have selective parenting. You have to be consistent with your children. And I think that goes a long way. Like, you can give them structure to the point where they will respect you. And ultimately, they'll love you and appreciate it for it. Growing up, a lot of times, I was just off the hook. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could put it out there. But in hindsight, I respect the structure and the love that my mother gave me because it helped me in the long run. So I think that respect is a major part of that, too. Is like, you know, that goes a long way. And when your kids receive that, they'll give it back to you. And they'll want to do things for you. Like, it won't even be an entitlement because they want to look after you and they want to help you out, right? So that's a major thing. For me, I got a podcast called Overcoming the Grip of a Narcissistic Dad. So that's gonna come out, y'all. I'll break down the relationship, the functional dysfunctional relationship I had with my father in that podcast, right? So y'all will be able to get into that. But I'll say for me personally, that's why I don't believe in parental entitlement, and I'm a father myself. Because in a nutshell, what happened, and I'll break this down elaborately on the podcast, but we'll just gloss over it here. So my father had reached out. He wanted to borrow $20,000 from me, and of course I was like, all right, you know, he's my father, so I just did it off of that strength, right? Totally ignoring the toxic history and dysfunctional history that I've had with this guy. I just did it off the strength that was my pop show. Boom, you need it, bro, cool. He said he was going to give it back. And 3 years had passed. He didn't pay back the money. And then he ended up sending me an email breaking down all the things that he did for me as a kid. Like helping me with my homework when I was a kid and all this stuff. He basically was throwing all the things in my face he did for me when I was a kid as a way to say, basically, I shouldn't have to pay you back this money. It was the weirdest shit. It was mad, funny style, and crazy because he said he was going to pay back the bread. He didn't pay it back. So it became a whole situation, and we'll talk about that on the podcast. But I'll say all that to say is that some parents, such as my father, they feel entitled to things just because you're their child, even though someone like him was never emotionally present, right? Like, just, it was what it was. Now, my mother was a textbook mother. Like, she was emotionally present, mentally present. She was very giving, very loving. There's not a single person on this planet that met her that didn't love her. God rest her soul. So there's always a difference. Like I said, you reap what you sow, and the seeds that you plant in your children, you're going to get them back. If those seeds are entitlement, you will see it come back. If those seeds are anger, hostility, frustration, greed, it's going to come back to you. So I think the most important takeaway from this is that you don't owe nobody shit at the end of the day. My daughter doesn't owe me anything. She didn't ask to be here, but it's my responsibility to protect, provide, and give her everything that she needs to succeed in life. And do I feel entitled? No. But does she give back? Yes, she does. Like, however she can at this age to show that she's appreciative. And that's fine. But I don't think that parents should feel entitled just because they had a child. If your father's a piece of shit, he's a piece of shit. If your mother's a piece of shit, she's a piece of shit. Doesn't mean you're obligated in any way, shape, or form. So, that's my breakdown of that. I want to hear what y'all think in the comments. Did y'all have some great parents? Did y'all have some shitty parents? What was your relationship like? And how did you handle that? Like, I'm interested to know that, man, because everybody's got a different story. All right. But appreciate y'all tuning in. And like I said, I'll follow this up with the narcissistic dad podcast as well. All right. But until next week,